Go back. Yeah. So we're going to continue on this is the second part of the Firebase course, and we're going to go through the monitor and engage part and how to build stable, crash-free, and engaging user applications with Firebase. So my name is Gina, and I'm a mobile developer at Creative Tech.
And my name is Olga. I'm Frontend developer in our company in Stockholm office.
And we come from a part of Devoteam that's called Creative Tech, where we create digital products. Creative Tech is, we have offices around the world and mostly in Europe, where we design products and with close collaborations with our customers from design to implementation. Yeah, so let's go through the agenda today. We're going to start with going through some functions for release and monitor in Firebase. After that, we're going to have look at the engage and monitor, and we're going to have a short break for questions.
Sorry, it's my fault.
And then we're going to continue a little bit. Yeah, so let's get started. I hope you're all excited. So when you create your app and it's ready, before you release it to the public, you want to make sure that you have a stable, performing and crash-free app. And this you can do by testing the app first internally, and then create maybe a closed group of users where you let them try out and test your app, and then you measure your performance and check for crashing before you release it to the public. And here Firebase has some really good features that can help you out with this process. So we're going to get started with Test Lab. Test Lab is so you can try out and test your app on your real device, but often that's not enough because you probably have to test your app for different sizes and different performance environments. And here the Firebase Test Lab is something that can help you out with this, where you can test on real devices, but through Firebase Cloud Console. And then you can measure performance on your app. So this is only for iOS and Android. So we're going to do some demo also during this course, but this is going to be a web-based app demo. And also, we're not going to go through the setup process, but we're going to do just the implementation for the different features of Firebase. So number 2 is like when you test your app, you're ready to distribute it to maybe a close test group of real users. And this is something you also can do with Firebase distribution, where you can distribute your app to a close group of users. But this is also a native iOS and Android feature. So it won't unfortunately work for web. And when you have like the group of users, you want to measure your performance on real users. And this you can do with Firebase performance monitoring. And it's a feature where you can both do measure loading times, throttles, and network requests.
So yeah, we made some. Can you show me this? We made some application. It's quite basic. We use React Native, and we host it with Firebase. And yeah, it's quite basic. You can scan the QR code, or you can go by this link and also see the application. But I show you anyhow. So it's very basic, but we will show you how we can implement the services even in very basic app. So here is our demo. It's like oh, but it's local, but it's okay. I'm so sorry. Okay, TH is a little bit, yeah. Here you can see the navigation bar on the top, and just two buttons with just it leads to the page with engage page. It's like just links to Firebase documentation on these services, and also monitor page. So it's also these links, and two pages with slow content. It's just a picture with 200 megabytes.
Yeah,
it's like and faster picture with
just a couple of kilobytes, yeah. Small image.
Yeah, and so we can show you on our performance monitoring how we implement this, like how we track some data from our application in our Firebase console. So let's get started. But I just want to
show this.
Yes, I will. I just want to. It would be later. So. First, let's go back to our code, and you will see how we set it up. So it's quite basic for Firebase service way to set it. So we just import get performance methods from Firebase performance. We import our app Firebase app instance from the file where we set it up, or it can be in the same file, but you understand the idea. And here, that's how we initialize performance monitoring. We just call this get performance method and pass Firebase up there. And within minutes, Firebase start collect our data and track some important metrics just out of box without additional lines of code. So let's see what we have in our console, Firebase console. So we go back to our console, and here we have a lot of tabs for different services, and we go to our performance. So here we need to choose the right application. And here we go. Here we see some data that that Firebase gather for us. First, you may be wondering how Firebase collects the data. It uses a method called tracing, and the reports that we get, it calls trace. A trace is just a report with collected data between 2 points in time. For example, out of box for our web application, it can gather such reports like metrics like first paint, first content paint, and so on and so forth. Let's talk about a couple of at least examples. First paint, it's a report. It's a time between your user navigates the page and some changes appear on the screen. And first contentful paint, it's a time between navigating and when we get some, for example, the first contentful. So it's like image or text, or it's when it renders some first content in our page. When you first go to this dashboard, you can see, maybe it can be even blank, because you need to add some reports. So let's try remove this metric, and it would be like this. And here you can go to this to select what you want to trace. Here's like page loading. Sorry. We use like trace name, and we use metric we want to load event, and it's when our content like HTML code was parsed by the browser, and we edit. Here we can see, look closer to the metric. We want to understand why it's trending, not like in good way or bad way. So for example, I don't know, let's do any metric. We can see it more detailed as well. And as you see, we see that for median users, it, for example, it's like load for 500 milliseconds. And also what is very important for us, that Firebase also break down the data by some attributes. For example, browser, country, and so on. So we can see, for example, if something goes wrong or we want to improve something, we can see the difference. For example, for Chrome browser version 101, 76% of even 7 of our user, it loads, don't become interactive for 487 milliseconds, for Safari 773, or it can be also a country. So for Sweden, it's this time. For Poland, it's much bigger time. So if we, for example, our users in some regions have troubles with performance, we can, for example, see it and add some servers to that country and like improve their experience. And also Firebase tracks all this network requests. It's like all our network requests that our application did. So it's also show us what's the request we have and what response time and how it's changing, how it's like trending. And for if we want to be alerted on some important metrics for us, for example, that our application this metric becomes very slow, very bad tendency. So we can choose alert settings, and Firebase will send us notification if, for example, we choose 2 seconds for 75 of users. So if it's like response time exceeds this these figures. So also we can have some custom patterns, like here we have for our pictures. We can see how how fast users were like how much time it takes for a majority of users. And also page loading, from which where it's fast and so on. Also, it's what we get out of box for our application. Also, we can have the custom traces. We can customize what we want to get, what we want to measure, and it's completely optional. And it allows us to instrument some code traces and metrics we want to see. And it's also quite simple implementation. We have a method called trace from performance monitoring, and we call it with performance instance, and we name this metric how we want it be named in our Firebase console. And we wrap the code we want to trace between tstart and tstop, so functions. And Firebase will also keep track of this code and show us some, I don't know, some metric for it. And but it's it quite take time for such custom traces to be updated. I think for me it gets up to 12 hours. So, but I show you. Sorry, I show you console again. Here we can see our custom traces. For example, for func performance, it's almost 200 microseconds. No, for now it's no more updates, but it's because it's updates so slow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I go back to our.
Yeah. So now you hopefully have a well-performing app after you've measured the data and adjusted the app. What's also very important when you to have a stable app is, of course, crash reporting. And here you can use Firebase Crashlytics. This is also a feature for native mobile apps only, but we have set it up. We have set it up with a native app, so we can actually see our data in the Firebase console. So you only have to implement, to add this to your mobile native app. Is a pretty simple setup, and then you can see, you can choose the data, how long back you want to see the crash reporting, and you will get the dashboard for crashes. And what's good also for native apps is that you can see a stack trace, and you can see, it will give you hints of where your app crashed, and also you can also see the information about the device that with the crash, in log data. Yeah, so so now you probably have a crash-free app also, and a responsive app, and you're ready for a public release. So now you might think that the work is done and you can relax, but my experience from app development is that here's when the actual work starts, because now you have to actually, now you have the chance to actually get the data from your app and see how users behave to it. And so it's at this stage, you will continue, of course, to do performance monitoring and check for crashes, but you can also track user engagement, and you can track the retention of your app, and you can also set up funnels to see if you drop your user somewhere. And you can also engage your users in different ways and develop new features to improve your app. And here also Firebase is really great because first of all, you probably have a lot of questions like how many users come back to my app, how often are they using my app, when, what time, and what features are actually used. And all this you can do with the Firebase Analytics, or Google Analytics as it is behind it all. And just when you set it up, you get a lot of out-of-the-box stuff. You can see real-time usage data. You can see engagement, sales, retention. You can see, you can also set up custom events, create funnels, and create different user groups. And you can also connect all this data to BigQuery. And Google Analytics is free in Firebase.
So, how we set up? I'm sorry. Can you? So first, before you start, add some lines of code. we need to make sure that we have enabled it in our Firebase console. So let's go to console and we see it's enabled in our, but I just show you where to enable it. It can be enabled either when you set up your Firebase instance, and it would be like, they will ask if you want to set up Google Analytics as well, or you can add it later from project settings and integration. And we have here Google Analytics. Now it's enabled, but if it's not, it would be here. It would be like enable button. When you enable it, you need to make sure that I'm sorry. Sorry. That you add measurement ID to your Firebase config, because it's how your this ID needed for very crucial for Firebase to get your analytic data. So, and it's also quite basic setup that you input get analytics method from Firebase Analytics, take your app, pass it in get analytics method, and here we are. Within a couple of minutes, Firebase start to get your analytics data. It's for no cost, and it runs in every like this instances run in every user device. So Firebase SDK collects primarily two types of information. It's events. Events means that what happening in your application. It can be some user interaction with your application. It can be some errors, or it can be system events, and also some user properties. It's attributes like language preferences, countries, etc. So yeah, we can go to console and see. So we go to analytics and dashboard, and Firebase automatically logs events and user properties, and you don't need any code to log it. So here we have let's see some properties, some user activity over time. Our application is not big, and we have very few users, but in big applications, when you have a lot of users, it would be really important for you to know. User activity over time, 30 days, 7 days, 1 day. Last minutes was 6 users, and all of them from Sweden. App version, it was like our iOS app version, and I think our web version is not defined, not set. Yeah, so you can have the detailed report of all this data, and
all of this comes out of the box.
Yeah,
also,
yeah. So it's like if it's stable, if it's some successful version, and also average engagement time. So it's increased, by the way, session per user, and engagement time per session. So, and also we have events and page view, user engagement, some session start, click like first visit, and some other select monitor button. It's also it's what our application track by itself. So let's go to see the events. Events, we can log event. So it's like, as I said, that Firebase log it's like itself, but we can also control and what event we need to log in our code, or we can have our some custom event names. So, for example, we can import log event from Firebase Analytics and pass it, like call it when we click the button, and pass analytics and our name of our events. And here we can see we can see it here. By the way, we also have what country. It's also interesting to see. We can see these events here and also in events tab. So we can see that click engage button, click monitor button. So people click the engage button more than monitor, how many users and so on and so forth. And also we can see analytics in real time, dashboard, what's happening with our application now. And we can see that in Sweden, we in two different locations, Stockholm and Sveg. And yeah, we have 6 users in last 30 minutes and 66% desktop, mobile, audience, event count. So it's very interesting to see what's happening with it now.
I can also mention that some of these events are automatically created for you, like app exception, first open visit.
Yeah.
And some of them you have to create yourself, like for different button clicks, for instance. And these are events that you also can use when you create funnels. So you can see what way a user took to use a specific feature, for instance.
Yeah. So let's go back to our slides.
Yes, so time for some questions. If anyone has any, we can have some questions now, or if you want to have.
Or in the late in the end.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like no questions. So let's go further. And if you have some questions, you can ask us in the end.
Yeah. Yes, we can continue then. Okay, so how do you do for now when you have all your data and know a little bit of how your users are behaving in your app? You probably have some clues for what new features you want to develop or to improve it, to improve your app. And here, Firebase is a really great feature. It's called remote config. And with this, you can release features without having to republish your app. And you can also turn your features on and off for all or for part of your users, or set up different settings for what users should have a feature or not. And remote config works, it's a key value based feature. So you get a value for a feature, for a key that you set up in your app. So let's say you have a base app, and then you can create a feature, and then you can configure to turn the feature on or off, depending on the value you get from Firebase. So if it's on, let's say, if it's on, then the feature is on, or if it's off, the feature is not on. And then you also can turn it on for all the users if you find that the feature is great. You can also test it out. So let's say that you want only 20% of your users to have this feature. And so you do a kind of canary testing when you just try it out on a small amount of your user base. And then if it's stable and good, you release it to all of them.
Yeah, let's talk about setup. Here we have, here we have our get remote config method from Firebase remote config. We imported it. We traditionally pass our Firebase application, and here we set it up. What's important to know that we need to, for our testing purposes, now we set this minimum fetch interval in 1 second, but if your application would fetch your data from Firebase backup very often, you can have some throttling error in your application, or you can also, like, user would receive your updates very unexpectedly for him. It would be also kind of annoying behavior of your application. So by default it's 12 hours. But for testing and to show you some, like, how it's changed, we put only 1 second. And also it's good to have some default config. It's what your application have before you fetch new or initial fetch some values. So let's go to our application. No, let's first talk about some implementation, how we use it in the code. It's some React code. And when you fetch your remote config values, you can just fetch it. Have fetch config method when your application fetch, and you can call separately activate method. So it's like you control when you want to fetch and when you want to activate it. For example, you can want to activate it when the user next time visit the application. Here we just I call the method fetch and activate it. It's do everything in like at once. And when we fetch our remote config, then we to get the right value, we need to call get value method and pass remote config and the key of this what we want to, and also call method as boolean, as string. I think it was also as number and as JSON, because it wouldn't show you correct data without this. Yeah, let's go to our sorry, application. No, not. Yeah. So here we just let's switch off. Let's go to like initial state of our application, and I will show you. So I just remove this save and publish. Second. So initially our application looked like this. It's like default mode is applied and green and pink button. But we created some new feature, and here in our remote config dashboard, we can switch it on and off. For example, let's switch on this feature for all the users, just to show you. True. And if we choose this use in app default value, it never fetch this this feature from backend. It would use only your default config default config value. So be careful with this. So if it's not working, maybe you need to check here. So here we save and only publish. So we don't update in our application. It just we not publish any updates in our application. We just publish changes in from the remote config. And I'm sorry. And here you will see that new feature is released. Also, we can have some conditions for what group of people or for what condition we want this feature will be implemented. Or so, for example, let's delete this, and I show you how to do it. So here in this conditions tab, we can add the condition, and we can say this. I would say temporary heading for day for Sweden. For Sweden. Sorry. And here we choose how this condition will be applied. So let's apply it for country is in Sweden. So for people who is in Sweden, we apply some other heading, for example. And if it's temporary, maybe we apply it for some small amount of time. And it will be daytime before, since today date. What time is it now? 1912. Let's do it 1914. And for Sweden, let's find Sweden here in this very long list of countries, Swedish time. So create condition. And here in the parameters, main header, we can add this condition. So now the value, it was Firebase demo for our header. But if we add condition, temporary heading for Sweden, it would be value Sweden for us. And let's publish. And here, we have this Hello Sweden header. And I think it should be maybe in a minute or two, it should like return to the previous one. And we will check later when it would be time. And also, for example, we create the feature for or some test beta mode, and we can add it for some group of people or for some group of devices. And so, for example, now we have green and pink button, but if we, for example, add the condition, like I show you how, I already showed you how it was done. So I use this condition. It's beta mode for desktop users, it's for web platform, for device category that is not mobile, and just for us to see it. And as user random percentile, we can have what group of user we want to see. But let's set it for 100% for us just to see the changes. But as you see that we can choose what group of user can see it. So now we go back to our parameters in beta mode and add here the condition, our condition, beta mode for users and value true. Now we publish and waiting for success. We hope for it. So let's, you see, first of all, the heading returned to, because it's already 1915, and our header returned to our previous version, and our beta mode that is like different color of these buttons now enabled. And for mobile device, you can check and tell me that it should be remain the same. So what else?
We should mention also that this is because of caching, you should use remote config, not for instant updates usually, because it's not very reliable for that. So you have to, if it's something that you want to turn on and you have some time for, in case it will be cached, because it can be cached both in the app and also in the Firebase. Yeah. So A/B tests. A/B test is really great if you want to create new features and but you want to test them, so you can do a more test-driven development. And this you can do with remote config. A/B tests is also native, but you can also do it manually with remote config. And then you can run different tests and experiments on your users. So how it works is that, like, say you have your base app, and then you create a feature A, like let's say a blue button, and then you create another feature with a red button, and then you through remote config you turn the feature on for a certain percent of users, like let's say 25% for feature A and 25% for feature B, and then you run this test and you measure the data from it. And let's say that you see an improvement in engagement for the pink button, then you can turn the feature B off and you can implement the feature A for the rest of the app. So the idea behind A/B testing is that you do more of a data-driven development, where you, after releasing a feature, you measure the data you get from it, and then you get an idea to create a new feature, you create a test, and you run the test, and you do a new release. And then you continue on building your app this way.
Yeah, and I want to add that it's only for iOS and Android users.
Yeah,
unfortunately not for web, but maybe they will add it to for web as well in future.
Yeah, so so now you probably have a really you have some features in your app, and your app is have some working great. But then how do you get the users to come back? How do you engage them? How do you stay on top of mind with your users? How do you improve your retention? And this you can do with two features the Firebase have. One is cloud messaging. And this is that you set up your, you send messages through Firebase console. This works both on web and mobile. And you can also do this with A/B testing. So you send messages to specific devices or a specific group of users. And you can also include metadata and dynamic links. So what is dynamic links? Dynamic links is also for mobile native apps. And so, which is you, if you have a link, let's say an email, and you have this on, you open the link on mobile, you can connect your mobile app to this link. And so instead of opening a website, your phone will open the app. And this is also a great feature for promoting your app through emails, or get users to come back to the app through push notifications. Yeah, I think actually that was all for us.
And we forgot about break. We were so involved and forgot about break. Okay.
Yeah, so now it's time for some questions. If you have any.
You want to stop?
Yeah, maybe I think I have two questions anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So the dynamic link you mentioned now.
Yeah.
So can you maybe explain with maybe like a use case?
A use case?
Yeah.
Well, if you have let's say that you have an email campaign.
Okay.
And you have users, and you have built a mobile app, and you want them to come back and open the app. Let's say they haven't used the app for a while, or you have a campaign and you want them to open it. So you send out an email with a link, and when they click the link, they will go it will open the app directly if they have it installed on your phone, or it will go to App Store or Google Play Store to download the app. So it's a way to kind of either get users to install your app or to engage to open it up again.
Oh, I think it makes sense now. Maybe I think I think I've experienced it as well. Maybe some of these applications we installed, like you mentioned, maybe they sent an email or something. And if we try to click on the link, then it's going to, maybe on my phone, it pops up maybe to stuff like, do you want to open with maybe Google on Google Chrome? Or for example, do you want to open with the app of the, yeah, something like that.
So a normal link, you will just go to a website, or but if you have, if it's connected, if your app is connected to it through a dynamic link, then you can you will open the app instead.
I think that's very interesting. And also one more thing is maybe, for example, maybe for someone who is new to, who might be new to like this Firebase of a thing. So like some of the codes you showed maybe for how to set it up, maybe how to import, how to do stuff like that. I believe one can easily get them on the console, right?
Or how do you mean to set it up?
So for example, let's say maybe release a monitor now. Maybe let's say, you know, for someone to like integrate it into maybe someone's app, we have maybe one's Visual Studio. So for someone who is new to maybe Firebase, who might be thinking, okay, how can I get this code to set it up? So my question is, someone can easily get them on from console. I believe I'm right, or maybe is there a kind of a documentation one has to read to get some of this code?
You see, you can, for example, have, if I understand correctly what you mean, it's I just put it clear. Every tab here you have link to documentation. Okay. So and there it's the documentation will be set for iOS for web development. So how to set up it for iOS for web development, for different like platforms. And
they have really good documentation and easy to like say remote config. You have both
and you can choose from here what iOS setup, Android setup, web setup, Flutter setup. So it's like here, and you have step by step like how to configure it.
Okay.
And also it's good to go to their
videos,
YouTube channel. Yeah, there are a lot of videos there, so it's what you can.
Yeah, usually you set it up just one time with just Firebase setup, a general setup, just to configure your project. And then after that, you have to implement the SDK depending on what
you need.
Yeah, what feature you have. Every feature has like a different setup.
Yeah,
and usually you get a lot of like out of the box, just with very simple code setup.
Yeah.
It's
it's quite interesting for developers to even to make some simple project and to play with this services. It's to see how it's changing, what's happening in the our console and dashboards. It's quite it's quite interesting. So
you don't need backend. Sometimes maybe you just want to do a very simple setup, and you can set it up with Firebase. And you get a lot out of the box. So
okay, thank you so much. So I don't know if anyone has any question. I think someone write in the chat. Okay, interesting talk, Gina. So I don't know if you have any more questions.
If you have any questions, you have our email, so you can. I'm sorry, I just do here. So you can email us, and we can help you. So sorry. So we thank you.
Okay.
So thank you so much for your for this section, and personally, I think I really find it helpful. For example, like I think I know some startups which sometimes they have these budget constraints. For example, like some of these startups, they have maybe they set up their business and most of them usually integrate to like third-party apps to monitor some of these stuff, to do some of these release and monitor like analytics, which I think using something like this might reduce maybe their budget from spending money on third-party app to do stuff like this. I think this is like a very good initiative. So for me, I think I find it very, very helpful. So thank you so much for doing this.
And for most of services, they are for free, so it's like you can use it quite free.
And it's also hosted, I think, on Google Cloud. So if you want to expand, you can. I think it's you still have all your data in GCP, so it's also good.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, does anyone have more questions? Everyone very shy. Okay. Then,
yeah.
And thank you everyone for joining.
Thanks, Gina. Thanks, Olga.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Madam Z. Have you slept off? No, she just sent a message to the group. Okay, see you. Bye. Okay.